in the Nashville scene's Best of Nashville Awards. We are finishing up our coverage of the third Saturday in October. There's a pretty big showdown heading into Knoxville this weekend. And we've had Tennessee writer Dave Hooker and podcaster from Off the Hook Sports. We've had Amanda LaFratta, who is an Alabama fan but covers Tennessee. And so we finish it off with someone who's covered the Crimson Tide for a long, long time, and that is the host of the Next Round Live, Jim Dunaway. Jim, thanks for joining us, man.
Glad to be here. Hope the audio's okay. I'm in that beautiful drive between Birmingham and Chattanooga right now, so I hope all the audio works okay, and looking forward to the conversation.
It sounds great. That's one thing that we love about this. The internet audio is always better than the cell phone audio for some reason, so it works out really well for us. And so, exactly where are you on this drive? You haven't hit Gadsden yet, have you?
I am about to be in Gadsden. I'm just passing. If you're familiar with the area, I've just passed the old. There used to be a drag strip in Still, Alabama, and I don't know if it's still there or not. But there was a time when some of my buddies at Talladega, when they were in town, would scoot up here as well and do a little racing under different names, and they'd come up here and have fun at the Still drag strip. So I don't know if it's still here, but that's where I'm passing right now.
We do love it. We do love it in the world, in the land of Ryan Brown, as they say up in Northeast Alabama. But Jim, we're looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be an absolute fantastic one. Great weather, great football, great atmosphere. What more can you ask for the third Saturday in October?
Well, nothing. I mean, I've made several of these trips up here in my 30-year career, and I've actually been, you hate to, if you're an Alabama fan, you've enjoyed the last 15 years. I've just hated that the rivalry has felt a little different. I hate coming up to Neyland Stadium, one of my favorite road trips, and, Tennessee fans are gone by mid-third quarter, and you look at all the big booster seats, and Alabama fans have bought the tickets or set in them and moved into them. So it's been different the last few years up here during this 15-year streak. There was a time in my career early on that Alabama didn't have the most challenging schedule, especially early on, and it was the third Saturday in October when you sort of found out how good that Alabama team could be. And I'm excited that I'm waking up some old memories of my childhood this weekend, because I think we get to really see how good this Alabama team can be, and we really find out how good this Tennessee team is.
Yeah, you definitely feel like, obviously, this is Tennessee's biggest challenge thus far, and you might get Alabama's as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you look at what Tennessee brings to the table. I think this will be by far the best receiving core that they will face, not only so far this year, but maybe before the regular season is done. Sideline to sideline, with the addition of Brew McCoy, you get Tillman back. Hyatt's been good. They go 4 or 5 deep at the receiver position. That could be challenging. Really good answer at left tackle. The offensive line is good. Hooker is a playmaker, throws the deep ball well, can also have that escapability. He's not a typical run first, throw second kind of guy, but he has enough escapability. We had Henry To'oto'o on our show earlier today, and Henry said that in last year's game, and he played, at Tennessee for a while, but he said in last year's game, he didn't realize how fast Hooker was watching it on tape until he had to play him in the game, and he was faster than he looked on tape. So having that experience will help a little bit, he said today. But, we'll see what Tennessee has defensively. We'll see what Bryce is able to do as he gets into the game. But I'm really excited about Tennessee's receivers against the Alabama secondary. That matchup, I think, will end up being the key to the game.
Dunaway of the Next Round. Here on Sports Today, Tennessee Bone and Joint. And Chris, did Jim just break some news?
Yeah, I think he did. And I've not been following Twitter, but as far as we know, last we saw, Jim, that Cedric Tillman was still maybe a game time decision. Have you heard differently, or is just Alabama expecting him to play, and if he doesn't, good for them?
Well, our show in Birmingham, we do a lot of gambling. So the point spread was 7, a flat 7, until about 11:45 Central Time, and it bumped up to 9. And to move 2 full points in that little amount of time, that's not somebody making a good bet or something. That's some information that people with noses not as straight as mine probably have gotten. And at least, you don't know. It's not from the coach's mouth or anything like that. The people who do gambling for a living out in Las Vegas obviously believe that.
If Bryce Young is playing, then that makes a lot of sense. And even if Cedric Tillman is playing, it's going to make a difference. So we've talked to Drew DeArmond as well earlier, and that's what he said. He said if Bryce Young plays, it's a different ballgame. Don't you think that's the case?
I do. I think depending on what he can do. Now, if Bryce can't throw it more than 10 yards down the field, then that's a problem, right? But you got to assume he wouldn't be in there playing if he's not. At least he's not going to be 100%. But if he's not healthy enough to make all the throws they need him to make to win the football game, and just his ability, his composure first off, because Jalen Milroe got a little not frustrated. We'll use the word, got a little shaky at times after the couple of turnovers, got some happy feet, and it took a while to get his confidence back. He lost that confidence. And Bryce is the coolest customer I've ever seen at the quarterback position. So just having him out there to calm down everyone and to handle the crowd and handle the snaps and handle the reads and all of that is a huge asset. Sometimes it's not even throwing the football. It's just checking into the right run play. That could be huge. But if he can throw the ball as well, then that'll be a benefit too. So, yeah, if he plays and he's effective, I think that's a lot bigger than Cedric Tillman coming back. Tillman's an unbelievable receiver. But, I think Xavier Worthy of Texas is just as good as a healthy Tillman. And Tillman's not 100% healthy. That tightrope surgery is usually a 21-day recovery thing, and that's what it was. I think it was about 20 days when Tua had it and came back, and we all know that Tua wasn't 100% for that LSU game, and he wasn't asked to make the cuts and run with the speed that a receiver has to run with and cut with. And so Tillman, with that same tightrope surgery, I'm not going to be surprised if he plays. In fact, this was probably the target date, but I don't think he'll be close to a 100% either. But I don't think that matters as much because they're so talented at the receiver position. The quarterback play with Bryce Young is huge.
Well, this Tennessee secondary has certainly taken some lumps over the last 2 years in the Josh Heupel era, and that just that just goes to the depth that was left by the previous coaching staff or lack thereof. So Alabama obviously is going to game plan as well as anybody. There's no better game planner in the game than Nick Saban. So they're going to have an answer early. How important is it for Alabama to be able to score early to make sure that Tennessee doesn't get out to a 2-touchdown lead or something like that in the first quarter or early second quarter?
Well, I think that's the DNA on every road trip inside the SEC is to sort of neutralize the crowd or not allow the team that's at home to get an early score or two and really get the crowd in play and start playing from behind. Even on the road, Tennessee did that to LSU this past week. That early fumble, and Tennessee jumped on them and didn't let up. And that's been the key to me all season long for Tennessee. In all their big wins so far, they've had a really, really good start. And they rallied for a win against Pittsburgh, which showed me a lot about this team. They've beaten 3 teams that have been ranked at some point this year, but none of those are really impressive wins if you look at where those teams are right now. This will be their biggest test, and them not getting out to a fast start will be key for Alabama. As far as the Volunteers secondary is concerned, I'm not as worried if I'm a Tennessee fan about them because I've yet to see an Alabama receiver that can really pose a tremendous, playmaking difference at that position. For Alabama, they've got to run it. They got to run it well with Jahmyr Gibbs. They got to throw it to Jahmyr Gibbs. And then eventually, if you're looking for a daily fantasy DraftKings play of the day, I would go hard. Anybody in this game, I'd go hard on Cameron Latu. I think Latu is going to have a huge game for Alabama in this matchup just because of the way everything is shaking out.
It's interesting. as we speak with Jim Dunaway of the next round here. He mentioned Alabama's receivers, and they're kind of an afterthought in this game. Does that kind of play into Tennessee's situation in the defensive secondary, that they don't have to be, that Alabama's receivers may not be as dynamic as they have been in the past?
You guys are too young to remember this, but there was a place when I was growing up in Alabama. I don't know if everybody had them around the country. It was a place called Bonanza. Was the name of the little steakhouse we had. It was called Bonanza.
Jim, let me stop you for a second.
Okay.
My first job in Franklin, Tennessee, when I was 15 years old, was working at Bonanza.
Okay. Well, then but Bonanza was a great meal. There was a time in my life I thought it was the best steak in the world. And it was a good meal. I loved it every time. I would go to Bonanza right now if there was one up ahead on this road. A, because I'm hungry. B, I just love a good steak. But we're judging this Alabama receiving core like we are steaks. And the best cut of steaks, the Wagyu, if you will, are all playing in the NFL now. These are still quality receivers that we're judging against the best cut of meat in the wide receiving refrigerator, if you will. These Alabama receivers may just be Bonanza, but my God, they were good. And I'd stick a little medium rare, a little stick in it right now and say, serve that up with that baked potato and that Texas toast and enjoy that wide receiving core at Alabama this weekend. I think they'll make plays. They're just not what we're used to seeing. The Jerry Judys of the world, the Devontae Smiths of the world have spoiled us all when it comes to Alabama receivers. And now I'm hungry for a Bonanza steak.
Yeah, so am I. Thanks. I appreciate you putting that in my world, Jim. Jim Dunaway of the next round out of Birmingham joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Jim, be safe. We appreciate you visiting with us, and hopefully you maybe you can unearth the Bonanza somewhere between where you are and Knoxville.
Oh, no doubt. As soon as I get offline with you guys, I'm gonna go, Siri, is there a Bonanza close by? And
Jim,
we'll see what she says.
There may be one in Collinsville. They're still about 30 years behind up there.
Was that a rival? Is that an old rival of yours?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah. I'm not a big Collinsville fan. So.
Ex-girlfriend, you dated a Collinsville cheerleader once and she dumped you. Is that what happened?
It's exactly what happened. As a matter of fact, while I was at Jacksonville State, it's just,
Getting a little too close.
They can take a hike. No, Jim, we appreciate your time. Follow Jim Dunaway at Jim Dunaway on Twitter and at Next Round Live. You can find them live each and every day from 9 to 1. It is a fantastic show. I promise you definitely want to subscribe to it and go listen to it. It's one of the best sports talk shows in the Southeast. Jim, you guys are awesome, and I appreciate you taking time with us.
No problem, guys. Enjoy the football weekend. It should be fun.
Yes, sir. All right, we're going to take a short break here, and Mo, I still don't know about this Cedric Tillman information, but
I think it's definitely going to be a game time decision, and I wouldn't really put anything into it until we see either number 4 in shoulder pads or in sweats.
Yeah, or the opposite. So, and last week, Bryce came out fully dressed for warm-ups. He was fully dressed last week for the Tide, but in warm-ups, he didn't even take a snap. It was, so I don't know if he just wanted to be out there and just get dressed and keep his routine kind of going. But Bryce,
or if someone else wanted him out there.
Well, I mean, if you're going to.
But here's the thing: if you're going to dress, why would you not
warm up?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the deal was there, but anyway, it's gonna be a fantastic weekend. And tomorrow morning we will cut out that interview with Dave Hooker, Drew DeArmond, LaFratta, and Jim Dunaway. We'll cut those interviews out. We'll have them available for you as you get ready for
your listening pleasure as you are making your way
wherever you may be going. If you're on the Tennessee River.
What's up, buddy?
Hey guys, how are you?
We're good, Dave. Glad to have you on in more ways than one. Thank you for taking some time to come on with us today. Before we talk about LSU, Chris and I were talking in the last segment about Matt Rule and Brent Venables and Oklahoma and possible openings. As far as that, do you, from where you sit, see anything that Tennessee needs to be concerned with as it relates to their current coach and Oklahoma graduate?
Well, I mean, you're talking to a guy who covered the Lane Kiffin night in which all heck broke loose for those listeners that might be under the age of 18. So, yeah, I think you always have to be concerned. I mean, Tennessee was in a very unique position with Johnny Majors and Philip Fulmer. Those were destination jobs in their hearts, and that meant a lot to them, and they were able to woo Johnny Majors away from Pitt after winning the national championship and getting the Heisman Trophy for Tony Dorsett. And then Philip Fulmer worked hard, and been maybe usurping Johnny Majors to get that job. So there, I remember the Philip Fulmer used to float out rumors that, maybe he was interested in the NFL. He never was. He was never going to leave. But as far as Josh Heupel, I would say this. I think a lot would have to change. One, obviously, Venables has to continue to fail and be fired, and that very well could happen, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. And then it's who's really in charge. He was fired by Oklahoma, and he shouldn't have been because Bob Stoops didn't want to fire his brother, who was the defensive coordinator at the time. So he fired the offensive coordinator. He had to make some sort of change because things weren't going in the right direction as the administration saw it. So there was a lot of hard feelings about that, and that really took Josh Heupel's career in a different path, one that he didn't expect. So I'm sorry to be long-winded, but I think a lot would have to happen, but I think you always have to be concerned when you have a coach that seems to have cracked the code, so to speak, and I think that he has with his offense. I think that Josh Heupel is one of the top 3, 4, 5 offensive minds out there currently right now. And Maurice, you probably know me well enough to know that I'm usually seen as cynical, but I really believe that. And so, yeah, I think you should be concerned, but I don't think you should be overly concerned.
Chris, is that fair?
That's what I just don't see, like you said, Dave, he got fired. He shouldn't have been fired. And I feel like, that's going to play a much bigger role, because why go back to a place that clearly didn't want you the last time you were there? So,
well, I will say this, and Maurice can probably appreciate this as a newspaper writer. I wrote a story that ran on the day that Lane Kiffin left. It ran that morning, and they didn't even run it on the front page because I told them, I said, this isn't going to happen. Don't worry about it. And I wrote a story about all the candidates that would have to say no before they went to Lane Kiffin. So it ran on the inside cover of the sports section. Tennessee football always runs on the front, and it didn't run on the front even. That's how silly it was as of, when your paper got delivered at 5:30 in the morning. Well, by 7:30 at night, I thought the evening was over, and I was cracking open an adult beverage, and I quickly put that down when I saw Bruce Feldman had to crawl across the bottom that he was going to Southern Cal. So that's how quickly things can change.
That's very true.
I tell you, I was at a basketball game at Father Ryan, and the buzz that was going through the stands, Dave, was just, you could literally feel it. And I'm like, what in the world? And then finally I realized what was going on, and it was a crazy night. And I was in Nashville covering high school sports, and it was a crazy night. So I can only imagine what it was like in Knoxville. But getting to more enjoyable subjects, 40-13 in Baton Rouge. Did you see that?
No. I thought Tennessee would win somewhat comfortably. I thought that I had them predicted, and I'm terrible at predictions. I'll tell you what I'm good at and what I'm bad at. I'm bad at that. But I had Tennessee winning by about 9. I thought they'd cover pretty easily. And no, I didn't see that coming. I heard you guys talking about the EMP pulse that they can set off. I think they did that in Ocean's 11 or something. I do think, I don't think that actually went off.
No, it was a joke.
Yeah,
or not a joke.
Right,
it was some LSU fan on the internet. And as Justin will tell you, you can't put anything on the internet that isn't true.
No,
Exactly.
it's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. But the one thing I will say though, as an extenuating circumstance, is back in the day, all football practices were held in the afternoon. They just were. I don't know who started that or why, but they always were. I guess it went back to high school because you had to go to school first. And every practice that I covered up until Derek Dooley, and I didn't cover him for very long, but was in the afternoon. Tennessee's is in the morning, and LSU's is in the afternoon. I did think going into it that was more of a factor than you might think, because I remember when Tennessee players practice in the afternoon, they hated playing morning games. And the Tennessee players, of which I'll plug, Jacob Warren and Cooper Mays that are on my website weekly, they don't like playing later in the evening. They don't like sitting around. I think a lot of that's body clock stuff, and I think Tennessee had an advantage. I thought when they announced the 11 Central Time kickoff, I thought that was worth more than home field advantage. I really thought initially, and I think that kind of proved to be true. It didn't look like LSU was ready to play, which is odd.
I'm not entirely. I completely agree with you, actually, and we talked about that a couple of times last week. I really felt like this getting up and your routine is just so different when you play an 11 o'clock game, and Tennessee certainly had no issues with the 11 o'clock kick, even if it was 12, I guess noon their time, really, body clock wise. So huge win. Momentum wise, getting a big win in the SEC on the road. Kirby Smart will tell you that it's hard every week in the SEC, no matter where you're playing, whether that be LSU or Missouri. That being said, when you get a win like this, it certainly does a world of difference for your confidence, especially going into a game against the number 1 team in the country in the coaches poll and the number 3 team in the country in the AP poll and a national championship contestant last year.
Yeah, the sports writers do their homework. That's why that poll moves around a little bit more than the coaches, because they just let the sports information guys do it. So yeah, I mean, I think that a lot depends on Bryce Young. I mean, that's stating the obvious, but a lot depends on Tennessee too. I mean, the reason Cedric Tillman and Josh Heupel alluded to this, if not all, but confirmed at his press conference today, the reason he had that tightrope surgery that Tua Tagovailoa had twice on his ankle is to hasten the recovery, to get back quicker. So that's why he had that, was to get back for this game. It wasn't to get back for LSU. It certainly wasn't to get back for Tennessee Martin next week. So that's why he hustled back. And I think that if he can play, he'll play. And, as far as some of the other issues, they didn't have Gerald Mincey at left tackle. He's able to play. I was told that was an injury issue, but maybe Jeremiah Crawford has established himself at left tackle, because they, B.J. Oligari didn't do much. Their defensive ends didn't do much, and they both might go in the first round of the NFL draft one day. And and then the other, Jalen McCullough, with the arrest, we'll see about that if he's able to play. But there are a lot of factors at play in this game. But as a whole, I would think that it seems like, including the Bryce Young injury, I don't want to see anybody get injured, don't get me wrong, but it kind of does feel a little bit, whether it be the early kick time or whatever the case may be, that things just seem to be breaking Tennessee's way, and they haven't in a long time. So we'll see. They still have to play really well on Saturday to beat Alabama. That's still a much better roster than Tennessee has. I think we'd all agree on that.
Dave Hooker with Off the Hook Sports joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Dave, it looked like even as Tennessee was winning this ball game by 4 touchdowns on Saturday, looked like there were times where the defensive secondary continues to be inconsistent, maybe.
Yeah, that's very complimentary, actually. I think Tennessee, if not for Tennessee's defensive front applying pressure, Jaden Daniels may have had an above-average game. I don't think he's an above-average quarterback, so that would be outplaying what I think he is. And Tennessee was able to apply pressure. They're going to have to do that again this week. And if you watch, it's apparent that Tennessee is what they are, especially in the secondary. And there are still talent gaps at different places, but none more evident than in the secondary. And I don't know that they get that much better there anytime soon. You got Warren Burrell out for the year and with an injury, and I mentioned the McCullough situation. So they're just not going to be good there. And they may improve slightly, but that's going to be a situation in which they're going to have to get better via recruiting. And that fortunately, I would say cornerback, other than running back, is the position you can step in and have an early impact pretty quickly. They need that. I mean, they need somebody to do that. And if they don't get that, then, by next year, we're going to be having the same conversation. So you can develop players so much during the season, but I don't think you're going to see this be an above average secondary at any point this year as far as who they play.
And that's why if Bryce Young plays, it's a much different ballgame than if he doesn't. You have to feel like if you're a Tennessee fan or an Alabama fan for that matter.
Yeah, the matchup is, I think, much better, but for a couple of different reasons. Obviously, Bryce Young's a Heisman winner. He's obviously the better player. But even if everything was equal, still, he's a guy who's going to beat you more with his legs, and Tennessee has shown that they're really good at that muddle rush where they don't really get upfield. They kind of just hold the pocket. They're good at containing quarterbacks. They're good at gap assignments, and they don't let people beat them. You had the Anthony Richardson. His longest run was 11 yards against Florida, and then Jaden Daniels is going to make some plays because he's faster than Richardson and a really good runner. But that wasn't what was beating them, and I don't think that's going to beat them. So obviously Young's better, but Milroe from a style perspective is a much better matchup because I think Tennessee would be much better against a guy who's going to try to beat you with his legs than a guy who's going to try to beat you with his pocket and beat the secondary, because this secondary is beatable.
Yeah, and I would think that's certainly got to be an area of concern for UT going into this matchup with number 3 Alabama. So, Chris?
No, that's it. I absolutely agree with you. This is going to be a fantastic week of fun, though. I can tell you it's going to be a fantastic week because I just talked to somebody who said folks here in Middle Tennessee are certainly bringing their orange out more recently. And he said, I promise you, if they win this weekend, you will see so much orange running up and down the streets of Columbia that they'll be going to the Murray County Jail to steal jumpsuits just to wear them out.
Or wearing the big traffic barrels they put on the side of the road. I mean, that's
traffic barrels, traffic cones, the whole 9 yards.
If it's orange, we're going to be wearing
They're
it
going to be
on
wearing
Sunday.
it.
If this 16-year drought ends, 15 years, something like that. 06 was the last win, I believe. So, but yeah, Dave, as always, it's a pleasure. We appreciate your insight and your thought process. We will talk to you very soon.
Yep. Anytime, guys. Give me a call. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Dave.
See, I was thinking. Welcome back in. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yao and Mo Patton here on this Wednesday edition. It is a Women Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today. It's the second Wednesday in October, but we're talking about the third Saturday in October. And this segment, we will chat with Amanda LaFratta from Off the Hook Sports. Amanda, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're good. I'm curious. Go back to the big screen just a second.
Let's
Yeah. What is that bottle over your left shoulder?
Oh, that's actually something. Let me grab it. So this is my husband's, but it's something I used to make a long time ago, and they're like, it's a Crown bottle and it lights up inside, and it's just a Green Bay Packers bottle I made for him. So
Oh,
I think,
wow.
that's it.
I think Jody might need one of those.
She's crafty.
Oh,
Very crafty.
Yeah. Amanda, I wanted to ask you, obviously UT Alabama week, you work for Off the Hook Sports, covering the University of Tennessee. How do you balance your professional responsibilities and your fandom this week?
I try to be as unbiased as I possibly can, especially when it's covering football. People might want to hear like Homer opinions. People might want to hear, people that are just rah for their team. I'm not that way when I cover sports. I'll tell you where problems lie. I'll tell you what you need to expect. I'll tell you, what's wrong with something or what's going right with something. And I don't sugarcoat it. I just tell you basic facts. So that's how I try to look at the aspects of college football. Go into it with zero emotion, just lay out the facts.
That said, what are you telling your fellow Alabama fans about this UT team and why they need to be concerned?
Well, I'm telling them what, the honest truth. Hendon Hooker is dynamic. That offense is dynamic. They will make you pay if you can't cover them in the passing game. It's not like they're bad running either. Their offensive line is pretty good. So this is something that I think Alabama needs to be worried about, because it's going to be the first, or they're not the first time, but it's going to be the first time that they face any kind of offense that's similar to this. And as good as they've been on defense, because they have been good this season, this is not something that they face regularly. I think this is something that they're going to need to really, really, really prepare for, especially if Byron Young is Tennessee. Bryce Young can't go. Yeah. They're going to have to really be prepared for that.
Yeah, we understand making that.
Oh yeah,
that mistake. We've done it ourselves. This is an Alabama football team that really, and we talked to Drew DeArmond yesterday. He just harped on how important it is for Bryce Young to play in this football game. Now he says Bryce Young could have played last week. It was a decision. They made a decision not to keep him out a little bit longer, and he would definitely be playing this week. Some other major voices in college football, Josh Pate being one of them, says it's still not a guarantee that Bryce Young is going to play. What have you heard or have you seen about number 9? Is he going to be on the field Saturday?
So we actually talked to somebody on our show today. His name's Ryan Brown, and he's covered Alabama and Auburn for, pretty extensively. I'm sorry?
The next round.
Yes. Exactly. That's him.
Go Gamecocks, JSU grad. We love him.
Well, okay. Yeah, but he's covered Alabama extensively, as you know. And he said he is 85 to 90% sure that Bryce Young is going to play. And he's also said that he heard the same thing, that he could have gone last week against A&M. I mean, no one really saw Jalen Milroe turning the ball over 3 times. But Bryce Young could have played, but they just didn't feel like it was necessary considering the A&M they were going up against.
How is that going over in College Station?
Right.
We didn't even need Bryce.
Heisman winner, who needs that?
Yeah.
They're not. Their offense is just not good. It's just not good. It's just bad.
And did we not say that before the season? And I know you probably talked about this, but I mean, we talked about how Max Johnson is an upgrade over who?
Right.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about Alabama, Tennessee. Goodness gracious.
And he was out. So he was out against Alabama.
Right.
So King that played, I guess.
And Haynes clearly not any better than Max Johnson, because he got benched for Max Johnson. So it's just that offense is just pitiful.
And it's crazy that they're that bad, considering that's Jimbo's calling card, isn't it?
His quarterbacks, typically.
Anyway, let's not get sidetracked on A&M with it being UT Alabama week. Obviously, Bryce Young may play. Bryce Young could play. Bryce Young should play. What's the word on Cedric Tillman?
So there's been some back and forth on that, on whether or not he'll play. The rumor is that he's going to play. He had that tightrope surgery, as you know, and that just really just makes things better. Like it makes your ankle stronger is the intent for that tightrope surgery. Even other players have wanted to just have it to make their ankles stronger, I guess, playing the same position. Rumor has it that he's going to go, but even if he doesn't, Tennessee's not really in desperate need of him right now. I mean, you have, Brew McCoy out there who's new and different and added to this team. You have Jalen Hyatt, who's been a great addition, and you have some pretty good tight ends at Tennessee that are going to be difficult to cover. So even if Cedric Tillman can't go, you still have plenty of talent out there on the field. He's not as big of a miss as Bryce Young would be for Alabama.
I want to talk about this guy real quick for Alabama. And I know you cover Tennessee, but I'm sure you follow Alabama pretty extensively. Tyler Steen, Vanderbilt transfer, has become a massive part of why this Alabama run offense has been capable of busting it long a couple of times. Jahmyr Gibbs obviously has been fantastic, but Tyler Steen and that Bama offensive line, they're going to have a tough task because, like you said, Byron Young pretty darn good. So, what are your expectations in the trenches this week, both offensive and defensive, for both of these teams?
Well, I mean, yeah, Tyler Steen, as you pointed out, has been a very, very good addition to Alabama. The battle in the trenches is going to be, I think, the roughest part of the game, probably the best, but also the roughest part of the game, because we're going to see a lot of just, constant contact there. I mean, I think it's pretty evenly matched. I would say defensive line and Alabama's offensive line, I feel, are pretty evenly matched there. So maybe there won't be as much, as many problems either side. I think that's going to be a big issue, though, is to make sure that you are evenly matched during this game.
I thought so too. So I'm glad to hear that. I thought it was going to be a really, really good matchup. It's going to be something that people who like football are going to want to pay attention to that this weekend.
Yes, absolutely.
Amanda LaFratta with Off the Hook Sports joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. The two of y'all will know this. Is this Henry To'oTo'o's first trip back to Neyland?
Yes.
Yes.
This is his second year on the team.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So last year he obviously played for Alabama, but it was in Tuscaloosa.
Right. Is there anything to that? Does that mean anything to anybody? Does it mean anything to him? Is that a talking point this weekend?
I think it means more to the fans than it does to the players. I think everyone saw, really the dumpster fire that was the Jeremy Pruitt era. And no one really blames To'oTo'o for leaving because you didn't know what Josh Heupel, was bringing to the table.
I did.
Well,
you knew it was going to be better. Well, you hoped it was going to be better, but yeah.
I blame him because he was supposed to be a team captain. He's supposed to be a leader.
See, I think nowadays, and I mean, good, bad, or the other, nowadays it's really out for number one, especially with the transfer portal, the NIL being what it is. This whole team captain and playing for the team has kind of gone out the window, and that's terrible because I hate that. That's part of the reason why you love college football, especially over professional football. But it seems like that's kind of gone out the window as far as this goes. Now at Alabama, he's fitting in just fine. And if you have the chance to play for someone like Nick Saban, I don't see, I wouldn't turn it down if I were him, especially if you're looking at, starting with the new coach and doing all of this over again. I don't blame him. Sorry, that's my cat.
No, we
just joined the show.
We're big cat people here. Cat people on the show. You're not the first person to have their cat make a cameo on the show either.
We don't have problems with cats.
Thanks.
What? Not at all.
Hi.
That's a cutie.
Thank you. Her name's Penelope.
Penelope.
It's a good one.
Yes.
Okay, so how does your Saturday work? Obviously working and trying to be objective in this game, but obviously it's got to be tough because, again, it's been 15 years. I don't know that I've ever had to deal with anything like that. How will Saturday work for you?
So Saturday, I'm actually traveling this weekend, and I'm not really excited about it because it's for a wedding, and I just
so you're not going to be at the game?
No, I had tickets and everything, and I don't get to go because we have a wedding in Arizona to go to. It's my husband's side of, things.
It's in Arizona. They don't know.
Exactly.
No, clearly they don't know.
We're going to give them a pass.
They do not know.
Let them know.
Yeah, so that's pretty bad. I'll be watching the game. I will try to look at it objectively. I will try to
You don't have to
not
do objective until Sunday.
Exactly.
Watch the game as a fan. You can be objective on Sunday.
Exactly.
When you watch it.
Yes, I will tell you, this is the most nervous I've been about this Alabama-Tennessee matchup in a long time, in a very long time.
I mean,
you're the second Alabama fan that I've had tell me that in the last 2 days, actually. So
yes,
it's interesting, and I mean, most Alabama fans, especially the knowledgeable ones like you and the one that I was speaking to yesterday, y'all know this isn't going to go on forever. That sooner or later UT is going to get it done, and
especially with Heupel.
Yeah,
I mean, Heupel's such a good coach. Just hope Oklahoma doesn't take him away from you, because I think they're going to be looking at that, considering what Venables is doing in the Big 12 right now, and he's going to the SEC, so it's going to be worse.
I almost feel sorry for Brent Venables right about now.
He is the Big 12's Brian Harsin currently.
Yes.
But
yes.
Oklahoma isn't as dysfunctional as Auburn, though.
No,
so
they lost 49-0 versus Texas.
That's the thing. Though. They might be now. They might have some folks. If this was Auburn, he'd have been fired.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Wow.
Amanda
and Penelope,
enjoy your trip.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Enjoy your trip to Arizona. Listening to, I guess you'll be watching it on your phone or something, unless you get a chance to listen to Chris Stewart in that broadcast. I'm sure that would be fun too.
I have the AirPods.
There you
go. AirPods. Yep.
You gotta have them.
Hair hides them. Exactly.
We appreciate
just smile and nod through all those conversations, huh?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I do. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Hi. Goodbye.
Yes.
Major League.
There we go.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
So terrible as they are. So,
well, let's bring in from TiderInsider.com and 97.7 The Zone down in Huntsville. He hosts Talking Ball each morning from 7 to 9 and the Blitz Recruiting Show as well. Drew DeArmond. Drew, what's going on, buddy? You there?
Hey, guys. How are you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. It's been a little we've had a little bit of a delay all day today on, I guess, the internet, so I apologize. But how nervous should Alabama fans and Alabama's team be about this Saturday?
Well, I mean, the bottom line is if Bryce Young doesn't play, I don't think Alabama wins the game. They got to have Bryce. I think everyone saw that on Saturday inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. Milroe didn't play terrible football, but the offense is completely different. They need a different style of quarterback. They have a good receiver core. It's not as explosive as in years past, but it's certainly good enough. And you saw that in the first quarter against Arkansas, where they were headed, for probably a 350 to 400 yard pass. And honestly, he probably should have had over 200 yards. There were some drops in there, and so again, they need Bryce to distribute the football. They've got a much more explosive running attack this year, a better offensive line. The wide receivers, they don't have a JMO or a Mechie, but they're solid as a group. They've got a senior tight end, but they need Bryce Young to be the maestro directing the attack. I mean, he's one of the best players in college football. I think you're about to see a battle of the best two quarterbacks in the SEC, in Bryce Young and Hendon Hooker, and I thought that in the preseason. But Tennessee's obviously got three really good receivers in their own right. Tillman's been out, but they haven't, missed him yet. Certainly Brew McCoy and Jalen Hyatt have stepped up, and they're doing a great job. But I'm sure Tillman will be back this Saturday. But Alabama is going to have to score between 35 and 45 points, I think, to win this game. And if they're going to do that, it's going to have to be with Bryce Young, and they're going to have to protect the football because Jalen Milroe is a great athlete. He's just not the passer that Bryce Young is. He can't distribute the football. He's not nearly as good in the pocket, and they're just a different style of team. They're more of a zone read type team, definitely ground-oriented. You saw that when he came in against Arkansas, and then I didn't think they stuck to that enough against, Texas A&M. I thought they tried to, operate the offense, quite frankly, a little bit like Bryce was in there, but I don't think Milroe told us this after the game. Milroe didn't know he was going to start till Saturday morning officially. Bryce took a lot of the snaps on Wednesday and Thursday on good, and so it wasn't decided until late in the week that he wouldn't go. So he would have been the emergency quarterback if they had fallen behind, I think, but Alabama was able to play out in front. They left Milroe in there. He's got a chance to be a good player, but I just don't think right now with the way this team is constructed, they can't win without Bryce Young against a team the caliber of Tennessee, and especially against an offense of the Vols that averages, upwards of 40-plus points, almost 50 points a game. It's the two best offenses in the SEC, and if Alabama's going to get a road win in a raucous Neyland Stadium, it's got to be with Bryce Young at quarterback.
Drew, as long as we're talking about the quarterback situation from Alabama behind Bryce Young, where does Ty Simpson sit, the former Martin Westview standout? I mean, he's from West Tennessee. He's probably closer to Tuscaloosa than he is to Knoxville, actually, but he is a Tennessee native. Does he figure into the situation at all at this point?
No, not really. He's still developing. He's only been there like 4 months. He had a pretty good spring. He can definitely rip it. He's got arm talent, but he doesn't know the offense nearly as well as, of course, a Bryce Young or even a Jalen Milroe. Milroe's been there 2 years. Ty would not have been put in the game, in my opinion, unless it was just an extreme situation. But I think Bryce was healthy enough. If needed, he could have gone last week. But I think it was a family decision that he take the week off. They wanted him to be, a week healthier to play against Tennessee. And I think Alabama thought they could still win the game with Milroe against Texas A&M, and really they did, and they should have won it more impressively. If they don't turn the ball over, it's a 31-13, 31-17 kind of game. And, Alabama had an uncharacteristically bad game from Will Reichert. He started out well. He hit a 50-yarder, but he missed a 47-yarder, missed a 35-yarder. So, and then Alabama, gave up some short fields with the turnovers. If they just protect the ball, they won the game comfortably. But since they played from out front the entire game, they didn't need Bryce Young. And so Ty Simpson, I think he's going to compete hard for the starting quarterback job next year. Matter of fact, if you ask me, Drew DeArmond, who do you expect to see starting next year for Alabama? I'd say Ty Simpson, because I think he's the style of quarterback they need. He can distribute the ball, outstanding arm, accurate, and he's a better athlete than people think. Certainly I don't take anything away from Jalen Milroe as an athlete, but he's not the style of QB that Alabama has succeeded with in the last 5 to 6 years and where offensive football is going. Jalen Hurts improved leaps and bounds at Alabama and then at Oklahoma as a passer. Certainly Jalen Milroe has that opportunity, but the problem is, Jalen was there with a Tua Tagovailoa, an elite talent. I think Ty is an elite talent, but as I've told people this week, Tua had to wait until the end of his freshman year before he got his opportunity. I think Ty's the same deal. He's just got to wait and grind. And when he committed to Alabama, he mentioned Mac Jones' development. So I think Ty and his camp understand that his time is coming. It's just not right now. And certainly I think Bryce is injured, but it's not near a season-ending injury. There's no structural damage, no tears. It's just a situation where it's a sprain. And certainly I think if he'd wanted to and if they had thought they needed him badly enough, he could have played against Texas A&M. It would have been a pain tolerance issue. But much like Tua took a couple weeks to heal from the tightrope ankle surgeries he had, same deal with Bryce. And I think he's going to be close to 100% Saturday, and I think he's going to be in the lineup against Tennessee. And I think you'll see Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe fight it out hard for the starting quarterback job in the spring after Bryce Young goes on to the NFL.
There you go. Yeah, I, for one, am excited to see this game with both first-string quarterbacks. I feel like these two offenses are going to be just running rampant, and it's not because Alabama's defense isn't very good. It's because, this Tennessee offense just puts so much pressure on defenses. But it's going to depend on who gets the stops. This is much like an old arena football game, Drew. You get 3 or 4 stops, you feel pretty good about your chances of winning. And Alabama has the best football player in the country, not just defensive, but across the board.
Well, yeah, I think Will Anderson is the best player in the country. Certainly he has 5 sacks. When I look at this matchup, I think Alabama defensively is by far the best that Tennessee has seen. Tennessee has improved their rush defense this year, no question about that. But when you look closer at the numbers, they played against Bowling Green and Akron, and then LSU. And LSU's not really good, up front. I mean, they're okay. Their offensive line is, I'd say below average, honestly. But I think the two teams that they played,
I think Drew is there we go. Drew is frozen currently, but he's not wrong. And I've said this all week. Tennessee has not played any offenses that are very good, and defensively, we just don't know where this team is.
We have an idea of where this team is, particularly on the back end, as we talked to Dave Hooker about it a little bit yesterday. This secondary is not great. You've got some injuries back there at cornerback. Again, Warren Burrell is out for the rest of the season. You've cut pretty deep into the depth chart, and now you've got an arrest hanging over one of your safeties that may or may not impact his availability for this ball game. So in the secondary, at least, Tennessee's not as good as you'd like to be. Now, what that does to the rest of the front seven is up for debate. But, Alabama's going to be tough to cover with this secondary.
Well, the positive is that I feel like the defensive line is as good as they've had in a long time. Mm-hmm. And obviously you can take some pressure off your secondary if you can put some pressure on the offense and on the quarterback. Now, one of the things that Tennessee does really well is they contain quarterbacks. And obviously Bryce Young is going to be able to maneuver his pocket. He's going to be able to throw under pressure. He's the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. But the fact is that, Tennessee's got to make him make those throws under pressure. And if they don't, then that's going to be a problem for Tennessee. I mean, you're going to see exactly what you saw against Florida, that just Anthony Richardson being able to buy time and find a guy 15, 20 yards downfield sitting in a pocket. You can't win football games that way.
No, you can't. You've got to make him uncomfortable, and you got to make him move in a manner that is advantageous to you. So see how that goes.
It does appear that after the Braves gave up a Sosa sack fly to center to make it 7-1, Travis d'Arnaud with 2 more ribbies scoring Contreras and Olsen with a double.
So it's Phillies 7, Darno 3.
Yes, that is correct. Philly 7, Darno 3. And you didn't see it, and because some people may have thought that, but Drew's hat was also a Braves hat. So he was. I told him we'd keep him up to date if we needed to, but I figured he probably didn't want to know when the Phillies scored again.
Yeah.
But yeah, crazy day for the Braves.
Have we lost Drew?
I think we did. And that's okay.
At least you tried.
Well, and so Drew has 2 shows. He does 7 to 9 every morning, and then on Tuesdays he does a recruiting blitz from 9 to 10, I think. And then they have a station meeting at 1 o'clock on Tuesdays. So he was trying to get to us as quickly as he could. Oh, there he's back. He's back. So we did not lose him. Drew, there he is. What's going on, buddy? Well, the question was about the Tennessee defense, and you said they've not played a lot of great offenses to this point.
No, they haven't. As I was saying, their rush defense numbers are really good. They're improved. Byron Young, Alabama's got a Byron Young as well. Both of their Byron Young is their best pass rusher, to me. And Jeremy Banks, Aaron Beasley, good linebackers. I think they'll probably be without Jalen McCullough due to his legal situation. Certainly, Burrell is out for the year at corner. He's probably their best tackler. And they already weren't very good in the back end. I mean, their back end numbers are worse than Arkansas's. They played against Bowling Green and Akron. And then I don't think really that Florida's got an elite defense. I think they're okay. I think LSU is probably the best that they've seen, and they shredded LSU. I'll give them credit for that. They absolutely shellacked them. And then, I'll just say this. Pitt has a good front, but I don't think their back end's all that good. I think Alabama is going to be by far the best defense they've seen, especially up front, especially you already mentioned Will Anderson, best player in the country. Dallas Turner's had his 2 best games the last couple. Now, I will say this, the way Josh Heupel plays, I mean, they never take the foot off the gas. They're always hurrying up. They never huddle. So it's going to be harder for Alabama to sub and get the cheetah package in with Chris Braswell. So that's going to be interesting. I'm going to be interested to see how that chess match goes. But Alabama's got some keys that they've got to do, guys, if they want to win this game. Well, for one, 9 has to play. Bryce Young has to be in the game. Alabama has to win the turnover battle because, as you guys know, Alabama's -6 this year. And by far, Tennessee is the most explosive offense they're going to have seen. No question about it. You're seeing one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the SEC, maybe the best wide receiver trio in the SEC, or at least in the top 2 or 3. And then I think an underrated running attack with Jabari Small coming off of his best game, really. No doubt about it. Certainly Jalen Wright's a good back, too. I think Alabama's got to stop the run. They've got to make them one-dimensional. They got to win the turnover battle. No question about that. And then I think, you have to protect Bryce Young. And then I think Alabama is going to have to, get about 5 or 6 stops, including one turnover. Because you've seen the obscene numbers that, Hendon Hooker has. I mean, he's got like 2 turnovers in a year and a half. And one of those was against Alabama. So if Alabama can get 1 turnover from Hendon Hooker, and LSU almost got a couple on fumbles, they couldn't capitalize. They didn't recover them. But if Alabama can get 1 turnover against Hooker, that's like getting 3 against somebody else. So to me, if Alabama can get 5 stops with 1 turnover being in there, I think Alabama can win the game. It's going to be high scoring because, again, these balls, they scored in the, on Alabama last year, they scored in the 20s. If Alabama can hold the game between 24 and 27 points to Tennessee, or even in the low 30s, I think they can score in the 40s and win this game. I think that it's going to take 35 to 45 points, and they're going to have to win the turnover battle. And if they do that, they can win the game because I think Alabama has the better roster. But if they turn it over 2 or 3 times, or if Bryce Young re-injures himself, all bets are off because Hooker's tremendous, and this is a tremendous offense. And I think, Jalen Milroe could lead Alabama to points, but he ain't going to lead them to enough to beat this Tennessee team. They need Bryce Young distributing the football to have a chance to win, no question about it.
Well, if this were 5 years ago, we'd be saying, How's Saban going to handle the hurry up, no huddle? Because they couldn't, and that's how Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze was able to beat this team. But he's kind of figured his way around that, and so that's not nearly as big of a talking point as it once was. But boy, it is a tough offense to handle. There's no question. Drew DeArmond, TiderInsider.com, and 97.7 The Zone in Huntsville. We appreciate you, your patience, your persistence in coming here and talking with us. We really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
It happens.
Sometimes they're gremlins. They have gremlins. But, yeah, I appreciate y'all having me on. And, again, I think it's going to be a great game. It's probably the first time since 2007 where there's definitive. And I know Alabama's a 9-point favorite or so, or in some places 7. But I'm just saying, I think in 2009, Tennessee nearly won this game. 2015, they nearly won the game. But both times they were underdogs coming in significant. Alabama was a significant underdog in 2007 when they did the onside kick and Saban started this streak. But to me, this is probably the first time since that year where there's going to be people on both sides picking. And really, Tennessee was the definitive favorite. So to me, this is Tennessee's best chance on paper since that year. They were in the top 10 team in the country, and certainly they've got a great football team, and it being in Neyland Stadium is going to be crazy. I mean, I think the atmosphere was great for the Florida game, but I think it'll be on another level Saturday. But Alabama's been there. They've already been to Texas, already been to Arkansas, and I just think overall Alabama has been there, done that, and if they play clean, they'll win this game. If not, then you'll see Tennessee in the streak. But I like Alabama to play clean football and keep the penalties under 5. And win the game 45-27, but we'll see. I mean, I think it's going to be a heck of an atmosphere and 2 great quarterbacks going head-to-head.
Here it is, number 3 Alabama. Neyland Stadium's going to be rocking. Peyton Manning's going to be in the house. It's going to be an insane atmosphere, an orange out, all orange pom-poms on every seat inside the stadium. What?
On every seat?
Well,
I guarantee you not all of those are going to get used.
Yeah, I bet there's a little sliver over there where the $1 Million Band and some other Alabama fans are sitting that won't get them.
And Peyton by himself.
Jim Dunaway made a point, and it's a point I've made, that Tennessee's opponents have been kind of meh.
Alabama's not meh.
Well, a response on Twitter from Todd W says, let's take an objective look at strength of schedule for UT and Bama per NCAA rankings for total offense and defense. An average total defense of 84.8 and an average total offense of 76.8 for Alabama. Tennessee's opponents average 77.4 total defense and 64th overall on offense. So whose wins have been less impressive? That is a heck of a stat I had not seen. So, Todd, I give you props there. You might have just made me feel a little bit better about this football game.
About the game or about your pick?
About the game as a Tennessee fan.
Mm-hmm.
Rocky Top.
Okay. No.
So who's it going to be? Is it going to be the orange and white or the crimson and white? I don't know.
Well, who are you picking?
Justin, who you got?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take my biased hat off, even though every single pick I've done up to this point has been emotional. And I'm gonna go. I'm sorry, but Alabama, just because for record's sake, I'm a Vols fan, but I just can't see it. I can't vision it. The Vols winning.
All right. Well, fact is that Peyton Manning is going to be in the building.
He's a guest what?
The streak ends. The curse is broken.
Oh, no. Of course so.
Yeah.
You had to work really hard for that. You had to work really, really hard for that.
The Manning jersey in the back.
It worked. Vols, baby.
Balls, baby. Well,
wish that
I'm going to tell you what.
I
I won't mind being wrong, but they're going to have to prove me wrong. I'm taking Alabama. So I have a tough time picking upsets.
Switching the helmets. What are you talking about? Alabama.
I know that. I felt bad saying it.
We're breaking the curse.
I will not mind if you're right. How's that? But they're just going to have to.
Well said.
They're going to have to do it. They're going to have to make me wrong.
They may not win the game, but they're covering 6.5 by George.
That'd be a heck of a ball
It's up
game.
to 9 now, by the way.
We're not picking it at 9.
We're not picking it at 9.
Yeah. So.
Oh, there you have it. That's our Friday afternoon show. Thank you guys for hanging out with
Friday
us.
afternoon show in more ways than one. Yeah.